This is the Seahawkers Podcast, episode 467. I'm Brandon Schultz, and I am joined by my good buddy, Adam Emmert, as we have wrapped up OTAs, and we got a little bit more football before we finally get into the summer.
We do, and it's always fun when you get the whole team out there for the first time for the year, and you kind of get to at least see the guys in the jersey, right, and running around in shorts and doing their thing. I only have one request from all these NFL teams. Can we just call all of these things practice? Like, this week is OTAs, next week is mini camp, next one's training camp, next one's like, just how about it just be practice? Like, why does it all have to have like 46 names? Because I can't keep them straight. This was OTAs. Apparently next week's mini camp. From what I can tell, they're all going to show up and then practice.
You know, that's, if you really break it down to what they're doing, it all comes down to practice. We're talking about practice, Adam.
Talking about practice, man. And I'm excited to talk about practice, to be honest. Like, this was fun to see all the dudes out there, get some cool sound from some of the pressers, get some observation from some of the beat reporters that were there. And it's including one quote that we will get to throughout this pod, Brandon, that has me just geeked out. So I can't wait.
There's a geeked out quote. There's kind of a head scratching quote. It's been a week to go through and dissect some of the quotes, because one of the things about everybody getting together, one of the benefits is that you get some quotes. It gives you some stuff to talk about. It's interesting, though. You brought up, seeing guys out there in their jerseys. I think this was a switch that came along with Coach Mike Macdonald, and it's probably the most brilliant and underrated switch that I've ever seen through practice, is that they went from, back in the day, the quarterbacks would wear the red practice jerseys. It's like, don't touch them. But now they're wearing the one jersey that they wear that everybody doesn't wear, is the throwback. And so that's like the quarterback jersey. That's so much better. That's a huge improvement.
It's a lot more aesthetically pleasing. But with that said, I wonder if it sends the same quick message visually as you're bearing down on your own team's quarterback, like the bright red or just like the throwback. I figure you probably should know either way.
Well, you should know either way. But I would say for a player who is on the Seahawks, personally, if I were a defensive player and I saw someone wearing red, it's like, well, that looks like a 49ers player and I should hit him. And
that's a good point.
And then if it's a Seahawks throwback jersey, oh, that's an awesome throwback jersey. I recognize that. That's awesome. Don't hit the awesome things.
I like it. You're right. This is genius. Mike Macdonald, jersey genius. Who knew? He's got a lot of genius going on, but quarterback practice jerseys might be towards the top of the list.
I think it is. Nobody's talking about it. We're talking about it right here. And I think what it comes down to it is that when you face the San Francisco 49ers in week 1, there's not going to be that hesitation of, oh, I shouldn't hit the guy in red.
That's right. No confusion. You're blowing up Brock Purdy's of the world. You're blowing up the Kyler Murray's of the world. Red, you're dead. That's the mindset. I love it.
And I understand that this was a change that was a year ago, and I'm just hyping it up now. But you triggered that in my brain just talking about how fun it was seeing guys out there in their jerseys.
Well, there you go. See, because there's a lot of storylines from OTAs, and you got the one off the top of your head right out of the gate there. But there's some other fun ones too, Brandon. A lot of stuff going on. A lot of dudes available to the media that we haven't heard from for a while. And I've enjoyed a lot of what I've heard.
We're going to get into all that. But first, Adam, let's thank our sponsor, Body Spec. As we are getting into our fitness journey throughout this summer season, whether you're an athlete, a fitness enthusiast, or just getting back in shape, Body Spec has you covered. For less than the price of a haircut, you can access DEXA scans, the world's most accurate body composition scan, because, you truly want to understand that body of yours, and you can right now with an exclusive $10 discount on single scans. You just got to use that promo code SHP for Seahawkers Podcast, SHP at checkout. These DEXA scans focus on numbers that actually matter: your body composition, your bone density, and overall health metrics. It's a powerful way to take charge of your well-being, and you can do it without the need for insurance or complicated procedures. BodySpec's competitors charge $150 or more for a single scan, and you can get this for way less than $100. Give the gift of a DEXA scan today. Hit that QR code you see on the screen, or go to bodyspec.com/CHP. Hawkers and use that promo code SHP for your special Flockers discount. Adam, I know that the one thing that you're itching to talk about is Abe Lucas, because I know he's one of your favorite Seahawks players. I also feel like after what I heard from him this past week, he should just be like the spokesperson for Seahawks offense. Like, I don't want Coach Kubiak up there talking about our offense. Just put Abe Lucas up there to represent the offense. And that would be my preference, I think.
Heck yeah, man. I just love his demeanor, his attitude towards everything. Just hearing him talk about some of the stuff health-wise going through last year, getting to this year, hearing him talk about how this offense is going to operate this year, hearing him talk about just some of the young guys coming along, and just he's so matter of fact. And also talking about how stupid Twitter is. Really enjoyed that. That made my day. And you kind of combine all that, and I think Abe is the most level-headed, just even keel type dude that we have on offense to be the spokesperson. And I'd listen to Abe every day because he is probably my favorite Seahawk on this team. I think he's one of the most impactful dudes on this team. And when I hear him start to say some things that's music to my ears, I get extra excited. Because if it's coming from Abe, then it's got to be true, right? That's the one thing.
That feels right to me, because when the Seahawks put up a social media post and they were asking who is going to win between the Thunder and the Pacers in the NBA Finals, Abe had some pretty hard-hitting comments about, if you're from Seattle, you should clearly want the Indiana Pacers to win. But I think, in fact, he went a little bit farther and said that if you're a fan in Seattle rooting for the Thunder, you shouldn't be allowed to root for the Sonics then when they come back.
Ooh, yeah, that's a hot take right there. And I'm in. If Abe says it, I'm pretty much in.
Well, one thing that Abe said is that our Seahawks, Adam, they're going to be elite at one thing. They're going to be elite at the basics.
We're trying to be elite at very few things, but those few things are, what the offense is going to be based around, and that's the run game. We're going to be elite at the run game. Like, that's the philosophy with it. So, I mean, it's not some, hodgepodge of just a bunch of different stuff we're just throwing in, you know what I mean? We're going to be elite at the basics and make sure that they work so we can do it against anybody.
And I love that last part of it, is that we want to be elite at the basics, elite in the run game, because we want to be able to do it against anybody. And that last part, I think, is the critical point of it, is that if you want something to be the focal point of your offense, it has to be something that you can reproduce against just about anybody.
That's right. You got to have your bread and butter be actually your bread and butter, something that you practice day in, day out. It's something that you excel at. You have the 10,000 reps at it to have mastery of it. And when I hear Abe talking about it's not like a hodgepodge of different things, that was one of the things that made me perk up, because I think one of our biggest gripes with Grubb last year was that there didn't seem to be a cohesive system. It was more like a collection of plays, like these are the cool plays and we're going to run them when I think it's time to run them. And I think that's kind of what he's getting at with the idea of hodgepodge, and especially in the run game, where it just felt like, well, Mike said we had to run it, so I don't know, I've got these 10 run plays, we'll run them at some point, and that'll be good enough, right? So to hear him say that about the offense, that really got me excited. And then the other part is that we hear from a lot of these offensive coordinators that think that they're the smartest person that's ever offensive coordinated, is we're going to be multiple. We're going to confuse the defense. We're going to have motion. We're going to have this. It's going to be cutting edge. It's going to be all that stuff. And every time I hear all that stuff, I'm like, well, that's great. Like, because that's like the cherry on top of something, but you've got to be really, really good at your fundamentals. And I feel like that's something that we haven't heard out of like Waldron or Grubb over the last few years. And so to hear Abe be like, yeah, we're not screwing around. Okay. We're going to do these 5 things freaking awesome. And we're going to dress them up in, 1,000 different ways, so it doesn't all look the exact same. But with that said, we're going to cram it down your throat. This is what we are doing. And that kind of leads to another quote he had through the presser here that, I mean, again, music to my ears.
When you get a new staff in, everybody wants to run the ball, but when it kind of, you come in and it's kind of a non-negotiable, we're running the ball, we put a fullback in the backfield, we're changing it up. We're doing things differently. It's like an old school mentality with a new school principle sort of thing. So, definitely just looking forward to getting after that.
When it came to OTAs, too, there are a few things that jumped out at me as common themes. And the theme of the fullback being a component of the offense, and maybe it just has to do with Seattle media now getting on board this. Just because, you draft one, you announce that one of your tight ends is going to be shifting to that position, you're creating competition within the team, and you're bringing in an entirely new offensive coordinator. So that seemed to play a role in a lot of these question and answers throughout OTAs. But then to hear Abe say it, it's it introduces this other part of it that running the football, this is not negotiable. This is what we're doing.
Of all the things this offseason offensively, for example, this whole offseason for the offense, for me, has been very much a mixed bag. Some things that I'm super excited about. Hey, we drafted a guard in the first round. Finally, we're doing something about this. Fantastic. And then other moves that, and anybody who's listened to the show for any time, you know how I feel about them. But because it's been such a mixed bag, I've been having a really hard time getting excited about the offense as a whole, even with the change from Grubb to Kubiak, and knowing that philosophically speaking, it's kind of in the wheelhouse of what you and I have been pounding the table for the last however many years. But it's this one quote. It is non-negotiable. Non-negotiable. We're not talking about this. This is going to happen, and we are going to do it, and we will be great at it. We've talked a lot about the run game and how it's more a mentality more than anything else, because all the guys are big and physical in the league. It's about it's about focus, it's about commitment, it's about all of those things. In just the words non-negotiable. We're not catfishing around. Get out there, get in front of us, and we're going to catfish and ram it down your throat. And I want that so bad. That physical smash mouth style to complete the circle of toughness with the defense that we all think is going to be really fun. And to hear that come from Abe, who's that dude, I think between him and Cross, in terms of leadership on the offensive line, I think most of the guys look towards Abe a little bit more. I think everybody loves Charles, and he's a great guy, but kind of a more demure guy and just kind of happy-go-lucky to a degree, where you can tell Abe is, yes, he likes to have fun, but he also likes to get to work, and this is about mugging people. And I couldn't be more excited to hear our players talk about what they're going to do offensively like this. This is exactly what I wanted to hear. Non-freaking negotiable.
And this is why Abe needs to be the spokesperson for the offense. To me, even if Kubiak were to come out and say, hey, the exact same quote, I would not feel it in the same way as hearing it from a guy like Abe Lucas. And, it's interesting to hear you talking about him being that kind of a leader when he's just going into his final year of his rookie deal, essentially. But he is probably the most senior guy, essentially, on the offensive line. And apart from Cross, who came in the same year, but he's also been through that adversity component that I think that as a player you would come to respect. That he had gone through a really tough leg injury, and you hear him say that he kept it real short as to whether or not he's back and he feels like the knee is there. He just said yes. So I tend to believe him in that case. And I couldn't be more fired up. I'm with you on this one.
Yeah. And knowing that he had a good off season and was excited about that helps a lot. And it's just such a far cry from the pressers that we heard last year with Grubb. Oh yeah. No, we're going to run the ball. No, trust us. Trust
exactly.
us.
Well, remember we played the one quote where they talked about, they're doing so much in the passing game through practice, and they talked about having 50% of the offense installed. And it's like, and we're questioning it and talking about, well, maybe that's how you install an offense, is that you start with the passing game because it's more complicated, and then you follow it up with the run game because you can do more stuff with pads maybe in training camp than you can through OTAs. Right. And so trying to justify why exactly that it might be the way that we were hearing it come out through some of these training camp quotes, this feels totally different. This is not, I'm not getting where we're really throwing the ball around throughout OTAs. No, it's opposite.
It is the opposite. We're going to have balance. We're obviously going to throw the football. We obviously know who the QB is week 1 when we're going to be throwing the football. But with that said, Kubiak really leaning into his roots in the Shanahan system and being like, hey, it's all based off this wide zone stuff. We're going to be freaking awesome at it. We're coming at you. You know it's coming. And that's the part that really gets me all tingly about it, is, as Abe described, hey, this isn't a mystery. There's a fullback back there. This is happening, guys. So good luck. Try stopping it, because you ain't going to do it, because we're awesome at it now. And that's just the idea that there's the opposing defense is so helpless, because that's exactly what it makes them if you can play football with that kind of style.
Well, we even got starting quarterback Sam Darnold on board talking fullback. He was out there during OTAs and mentioning that just how the offense and the fullback is playing a component within that offense.
It creates a lot of stress for defense because, you can line up and you can run the football in I formations and different formations with him in the backfield. And then you can also get, a fullback out wide, and he can run certain routes, and you can spread the field out while a defense is, caught in base personnel with bigger guys on the field. So there's a ton of different ways. And then, like I mentioned, if they want to play, sub personnel and get that nickel out there, then, it lends itself to some running advantages there. So, it's great to be able to have a good fullback out there.
And while we did hear from Robbie Oots in the OTAs, I don't have any clips from him, but he was out there and speaking. And one of the things that he talked about was just how much more involved he is with Jalen Milroe getting him the ball. So he's on the third team. It makes me think that Brady Russell, probably the starting guy that they're using, at least with the first team for now. But I don't know. Maybe it's just Robbie Oots out there getting all kinds of reps.
Yeah, maybe. It does appear that Brady Russell is the leader in the clubhouse at this point. But again, very early. And I think that's one of the things as we go through and we talk about all the news from OTAs here over the last few days is that, don't get too up and down about all of it after I just had a, mini orgasm about, the idea of running the football. But with that said, in terms of player performance and how things are looking and all of that, and who's playing with which groups. And okay. You can take a little from it, but I'm not going to take a ton from it.
No, it's a long way to go. And that's probably going to play into some of the other quotes too. Shoot, it plays into the quote with Klint Kubiak, because he was talking about Jalen Milroe. And this was one of the things that it got me fired up a little bit, just knowing that our young quarterback has been putting in a lot of extra work.
Number one thing that stands out is the guy's a worker. You see him in there at 4:30 in the morning on the field, going through his plays. Nobody asked him to do that, but he's out there putting in extra time. I've seen him grow a lot from rookie minicamp to now, so I've been impressed with the kid.
Klint Kubiak asked about Jalen Milroe and hearing that he's coming in at 4:30. And that was kind of one of the things that I know we talked about throughout the draft process. It's going to take a lot of work for him to get to where he needs to be as an NFL quarterback. But one of the cool things coming from college to the pros is that if you treat this like a full-time job, and if dude is coming in at 4:30, it is there in the building at 4:30, it sounds like he's treating it as more than a full-time job.
He is. So I have problems with this only because on a personal level, if I were president tomorrow, I would dictate that nothing in this world happened before 10 a.m. because I just think it's stupid. I'm not a morning person. Mornings is a state of mourning to me. Like, I do not enjoy it. So for him to be in at 4:30 in all of that, it kind of hurts my feelings a little bit because it's blowing up some of my firmly held beliefs on not doing anything at that time of day other than sleeping. But putting that aside, the idea that he is there in getting in the extra reps and taking the extra time, not surprising given his background. And also it buoys the idea of, hey, if anybody can take a skill set like his and work hard enough to turn it into something that's NFL caliber, he's got it. And I think they're being very careful in terms of the way they're speaking about Milroe. You don't hear him talk about, because everybody tries to ask him about, well, is he working on mechanics? Is he working about this? He's working hard, and they're being very demure about anything that he does. They're not, in when they ask him about, like, how's he coming along as a thrower? Yeah, he's working hard. It's good. Like, just kind of pushing it to the side, taking the pressure off, and I think that's going to be good for the kid.
Well, part of it, I think, is taking the pressure off. Another part of it is that, I don't know, it's just the sense that I get, especially hearing from Coach Mike McDonald when he went on 710 Sports this past week, and his response to the question around the quarterback situation in Seattle. It feels to me like they're really trying to insulate Sam Darnold and try and not bring into any of these questions around who potentially could be quarterback. Like, they want there to be no question that Sam Darnold's going to be the quarterback. He's the quarterback week 1. He's going to be the starting quarterback, and there's really nothing that can change that. And that was his message when he was asked about the quarterback situation in Seattle. If there was anything that could happen from now until the season starts that could change the QB1 off of Sam Darnold's name.
It's just a crazy question. There's just not going to, like, Sam's our starting quarterback. We love him. He's doing a tremendous job. I think it's funny that the media is out there for, like, the first day, and all of a sudden they know exactly how good we're going to be and how good all the players are and all the tempos. Like, we don't even put on pads yet. Like, we haven't made one tackle. And it turns out in practice, like, it's a great way to build culture by letting guys know that, like, they can't make mistakes. That's exactly what we're shooting for. So go out to practice, be tight, make sure you don't make a mistake, because then, God forbid, you're the worst player of all time because you made one bad throw or one bad decision. It's like, that is not what we're trying to build. We want these guys to go prepare the right way, and then when they go out on the practice field, go freaking let it rip. And then we'll go fix it. We'll go. We got time. It's June. It's June 3rd. We'll go. Okay, they're going to get plenty of reps. We'll get those things fixed. I mean, Sam made a lot of great throws yesterday. He's gashing us on 3rd and goal to start the day out too. So, that was kind of a crazy question.
Some heavy doses of sarcasm in there from Coach Mike. But what do you think about that, Adam? Is that a crazy question?
I wonder if they talked about this before they started the show, because I think the way that Salk asked the question is kind of informative here. Do you want to hear? Should we play how he asked the question? Oh, sure. Play the 17,000 apologies he led with before he asked the question. Yeah.
So I feel bad asking this because it feels like a gotcha question, but I really don't mean it that way. And if there's no way to answer it, I guess I would understand that. But look, was out here yesterday. Sam didn't have his best day, obviously a couple of picks, etc. And I guess I almost have to ask, but I hate asking this. Is there anything that could happen other than an injury between now and the beginning of the season that would lead to a different quarterback?
No, you guys are crazy.
There's no way to ask the question without sounding like an idiot.
Like, I respect you got to ask it.
There's no way to ask the question without sounding like an idiot. How about maybe not apologizing and hedging and then apologizing again? Yeah, I love Salk. In fact, out of pretty much all the 710 personalities, I think my philosophy on a lot of things lines up with his for the most part. I probably the closest. But in this one, it's like, dude, what are you doing? There's no way to ask this without sounding like an idiot. Yeah, there is. Hey, is there any way Sam isn't the starter at the beginning of the year? That's all I have to say. That doesn't sound stupid. Like, the idea that it's crazy that anybody would question that Sam Darnold is
the future starting quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks. I'm not buying it. I think it's a legit question. I think it's an unlikely outcome if anybody but Sam Darnold is the starter going into week 1. I would have thought that before Mike gave his answer.
It almost makes me worry more about it based off of Mike's answer because just 2 months. Well, how many months ago was it? It was February. February when Mike McDonald was out there saying, Gino's our quarterback. I don't understand the conversation. It's pretty obvious this guy is a heck of a quarterback. He's our quarterback. We love him. Can't wait to go to work with him. And then 2 months later, he was gone.
Yeah, that's a good point. Hadn't thought about it. And that the ringing endorsement from Mike McDonald means you're about to lose your job, apparently, or be shipped off somewhere. I think that there's a couple of things going through Mike's head. One is the old notion of if you've got 2 quarterbacks, you've got no quarterbacks. And so I think he's just planting his flag in the ground early and saying, this is what we're doing. It's Sam Darnold. Everybody can calm down. I don't care how many picks he throws in practice. Doesn't matter. He's the guy that we think has the most upside for this team and fits our offense and everything that we're doing. Okay, fine. I can understand being that declarative about it. What's confusing is when you hear early on that Drew looks super sharp and Sam looks up and down. Again, it's OTAs. I'm not putting a ton into it. We've got a long ways to go, but it's a data point. And you look at it and go, okay, I'm going to remember that. I'm going to remember that Sam looked up and down as he has pretty much his entire career. And Drew managed to look really sharp. Like that should invite, you would think, some conversation into, yeah, Drew's really competing hard. While it's unlikely, if this is Mike talking, while it's unlikely, there is a world because, competition is everywhere on this team that Sam isn't the starter, but it's almost impossible for me to see otherwise. Just writing it off as like, nope, Sam's really good. He had a great 13 games. He's our starter. Okay, we'll see.
Well, and that's why it bothered me, the idea that it was crazy. Because there is a scenario, because it is competition, that we talked about it even with Drew Lock saying, hey, this is a great situation for him because he's familiar with the building. He's familiar with a lot of the players on the team because it wasn't all that long ago that he was here and working with a lot of these players. So, yeah, there's been some turnover, but there's still a lot of familiarity. And it's kind of a good situation for him. You have a young rookie, too, that, gosh, if he's coming in and putting in the work, like he's competing for that job too. There's a lot of competition going on. And the other point with this is that, because the question invited this idea that, oh, well, Sam didn't have that great of a day. Okay. Like he threw a couple picks in red zone drills. Like that's.
And a couple touchdowns.
But I would think as a defensive coach, you would be saying too, well, yeah, we're doing red zone drills. It's different than game situations when guys are padded up and they can't touch anybody. It's not running plays how we would normally necessarily run plays. Yeah, it's practice. Picks happen. We have an awesome defense too.
Rather than talking about it being a quarterback failure, more that it was a defensive success and that they're ahead of schedule. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
If you have a really good defense is going to win some of these times.
Yeah, they get paid to. And the other thing is, I want my quarterbacks out there throughout practice. And this is what Mike was talking about very sarcastically, which, again, I loved. Want them to be tight. Nah, man, wing it around. Throw it all over the yard. See what happens. Take risks. Try things out. Do different things. Have the coaches be like, hey, we want to see what this looks like when this player is doing this against that sort of player in this scheme. And so, yeah, you might be throwing the ball there. You wouldn't normally throw the ball there, but the coaches are like, please throw the ball there so I can see what happens in this matchup or whatever it is. So, yeah, I'm not making a lot of big proclamations about what's going on with Sam based on OTAs and all of that. With that said, all my reservations don't come from what happened in OTAs. All my reservations about the player come from his career.
Sure.
I mean, just looking at his career as a whole, that's where my concerns come from. There's only a handful of really great games and a bunch of dumpster fire games. So that's what has me thinking that it shouldn't be a crazy question to be like, hey, is Sam actually going to be QB1? Because it's not like you brought in Patrick Mahomes somehow and placed him there and people are like, is Pat really going to be QB1? No, that's crazy. Of course he's going to be QB1. Somebody on Sam Darnold's level, I don't think it's crazy to be like, hey, is there a world in which this doesn't work out?
No, unless you have a top 10 guy, every team is going to be asked this type of question if you have a quarterback that's not that guy. I mean, we dealt with it the last couple of years.
Yeah, we did.
Just didn't have that capable of a backup last year.
No, we took a risk on another Sam quarterback that didn't quite work out. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the storylines are for Darnold going through the rest of mini camps, other camps, training camps, practice throughout the offseason here. And I don't know that there's going to be anything short of preseason play that's going to get me personally to say, hey, we can't be putting Sam out there week one. We just can't do it. Any of these reports in practice.
It would have to be very obvious through the preseason that would be the case.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Even if it was in the preseason, it would have to be, as you stated, extremely obvious. Yeah, he's probably going to be the week one starter, 98% chance for sure.
Oh, yeah. That sounds about right.
And on the other hand, too, it protects Milroe and, again, takes all the pressure of like, ooh, is he competing in camp? Could he possibly win this job? And all the storylines that would swirl around that. So Mike's nipping that in the bud. And I also think some of this conversation is framed with your own personal perception of, do you think Sam Darnold's the future quarterback? Or do you think Jalen Milroe's the future quarterback? Or do you think Drew Lock is? I don't think there's many people in the Lock camp, but for me personally, Jalen Milroe is the future of quarterback for this team. And so if you can keep the conversation away from him by being like, he's working hard and shove him down to third team and just kind of keep him behind the scenes, let him do his work. No, there's no chance he's taking the starting job. Sam Darnold's our starter. Take all that pressure off of it. Take all the media scrutiny off of it. I think that's the best for a young player's development. And I think that's maybe where Mike's coming from, rather than trying to protect Sam. Like, yeah, he's our number one, no doubt about it, and he's the future of this team. I don't know that that's his mindset. And I think that is the mindset of a lot of fans is, yeah, Darnold's only 28. He's the future.
Yeah, it just depends on what your time horizon of the future is. If you're looking at someone to be the guy and potentially be someone who can carry our team to a Super Bowl this year in 2025, Sam Darnold would be the guy that you would probably hitch the wagon to for year number one. And then you can go from there after that. It's like, if it happens in year one, then great. Then we're on board. If it doesn't, then you start looking at year two and go, well, when Milroe, after we've seen some stuff from him, and I'd even throw Locke in that too, just because like he's had some moments. There's nothing to say that he can't have this, similar type
renaissance. Yeah.
A career arc of either with Geno Smith, with Sam Darnold, a career arc to where, it takes you 6 years, you get it figured out. You have all of the talent and ability there. It's just trying to get it all working together. So, yeah, you have. And that's why I keep going back to that question of whether or not it's crazy. You have three guys that are all competing for a job, and I want whoever is showing the most promise and the guy that is going to be there to lead us long term. That's the person who I want to win.
Yeah, and I guess I view the future long term in 3-year stints, and I just don't believe that in, let's see, this is 25, 26, in 2027, that we're going to be talking about Sam Darnold starting quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks. I think that's like a 5% chance of happening. I just don't. And in terms of, hey, rolling the dice, seeing if you can win a chip this year, who gives you the best chance? I disagree. I do not think it's Sam Darnold. I have never seen that guy come through in a big pressure-packed moment.
I mean, that was one of the reasons why Milroe wasn't the number 2 guy for me, is that a lot of those pressure-packed moments in college, he faded a little bit too. And so
Georgia disagrees.
Yeah, well, that was one SEC game, but there were a lot of games down the stretch to where after they had gotten out and were in position to really take control, to where they faded down the stretch. And I could say the same thing about Darnold in games against Green Bay. Those are big-time games within your division. He showed up in those, and it faded at the end when it came time to where it really mattered.
Sure.
I mean, ask you, Geno Smith. What was the biggest Geno Smith win?
What was the biggest Geno Smith win was the first year that they went to the playoffs, and he kept them competitive for a half with a shell of a team around
So
him.
he won one half against the 49ers.
That's a
in the
hell
playoffs.
of a lot more than Sam Darnold has ever done in the playoffs. It is.
Okay.
With a lot less.
Your
With a
answer
lot
tells me a
less.
lot about Geno. His biggest game was one half in the playoffs.
I'll say this till I'm blue in the face. Would have loved to see Geno Smith in a real system with not one of the worst offensive coordinators in the league, Waldron or Grubb, a good offensive line with those receivers, and a defense that actually had his back. Because our defense, up until the second half of last year, let's not get it twisted, throughout all of Geno's tenure, was god freaking awful. It was awful. So just at the end of the day, that guy is a better quarterback. I watched him do more with less than the guy that we currently have starting. And I've seen Geno do it for a couple of years. I've seen Baker do it for a couple of years. I've seen some of these guys that have had their renaissance do it for a couple of years. I saw one season in the quarterback Goldilocks zone for Sam Darnold. It doesn't make me a believer. That could be different by the end of this year. But
yeah, because then he'd have 2 years under his belt. Yeah, I could understand that.
Right. And if we all remember, too, after Geno's first year, I was like, that was awesome. Really excited about that. Got to see it again, though. That's what I said about Geno, who I'm now defending in a way because he's put together the type of body of work that I think warrants him being considered where he is being considered by the league finally in some of the quarterback rankings and stuff. Darnold could get there. I just feel like it's completely unlikely. And in terms of getting to a championship level this year, I think having somebody who holds the ball too long, has a propensity to throw picks, not just in the red zone in a bad system, but just kind of in all the systems for his entire career. I don't trust that guy to take us to a championship level as much as I trust even a rookie who could come out and they could keep the ball out of harm's way by just using his legs, because that translates to the league and he does have an elite skill at that. And you could really lean extra hard into the running attack. And I think you could go further with that if Jalen can go ahead and develop as a passer over the next few months and through the first half of the season in a way to where he could get around 65% completion rate if he ever did see the field. I think what's best for him is to not have that happen. But I'm not banking on the Seahawks winning a championship this year at all. Like that's
that's what it comes down to, is that I feel similarly. It's not one of those. I look at this as a growing type of year. Again, it's another transition year. When you have so many transition years in a row, especially with new coordinators and new coaches, it feels like we've been in that situation perpetually for about 6 or 7 years now. It makes you realize, okay, well, you need some stability. You need to start building some of that stability within the offense and within the coach. And now that you have a new offensive coordinator, like now it's feeling like you're building that foundation of stability. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's it's
part of the process,
It's
right?
part of the process. And hey, if things work out and they end up making a deep run and or even going all the way, that would be awesome.
Well, of course. I'm not going to be sad. Just try to keep my expectations in the realistic but optimistic bucket, if that makes sense. And it all kind of, what you just said, circles back around to what Abe was talking about, what Klint was talking about, and finally getting to, all right, we're going to establish some fundamentals about this offense and this team. Like, no more screwing around, no more, oh my gosh, we're at 11 personnel all the time, and we're doing all this cool motion, and our passing concepts are so next level and all that crap. Nope. We're going to line up. We're going to punch you in the face again and again and again until you're tired of being punched in the face. And I think that's a sustainable way to build offense going forward. And no, it may not take us all the way to a championship this year, but no
if we
matter
get
who
to the end of the season,
is,
we go, this team has an identity. You can see what they're building. That'll feel like a successful season.
100%.
Unlike last season where I was like, oh my gosh, they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, it became pretty evident within about 6 weeks where you're just thinking, my goodness, this grub stuff is.
Well, for the first 3 games, you're like, oh, hey, maybe this is going to work.
That's why I said 6 weeks, because, the first 3 weeks, hey, maybe I'm eating a bunch of crow about this grub guy. Like, hey, this is fun. And then what happened.
All right. Well, one thing that I am excited about, I can keep going back to the defense and finding things that I'm excited about on defense. Adan Durde, one of the things that he was asked about was, and this was another theme that I felt like came out of OTAs, that you look around the league and you see guys in contract situations and not showing up to, because these are voluntary practices. You don't have to be there, but if you have a lot of guys showing that they want to be there, it says a little something about your team. And defensive coordinator Aden Durde was asked about it, and here's what he said.
They want to grow no matter what type of situation they are in their career. Like I talk to Jay Reed all the time about like little things we can do, and he teaches me stuff that he sees. I talk to him about stuff. Leo, the same thing. Law, the same thing. I just think guys want to do it the right way here. And like, if we can keep doing that, we can make those jumps, especially with everyone here.
Yeah. So with everybody here, it shows that commitment that they want to learn and grow. And while I don't think it's the end of the world if 1 or 2 guys in contract situations, like part of the reason why we're talking about this is because there's not a lot of guys that are in these contract windows that have a statement to make. And so a big part of it's just a function of that. Like the one guy you could maybe make a case for that would be, I don't know, like Charles Cross and Abe Lucas going into their final year. Like if they wanted to make a statement to say, hey, I want a little money. I want it now. I'm going to sit out. There's just not many guys like that. So I also think it's cool that a lot of people are here. They're bought in. And I like that about our Seahawks and our defense.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how important-ish is having all the dudes there? What would you say?
I would say 7.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because I think it is important to have everybody who is bought in and wants to be there.
Gotcha. Okay. I was going to say about a 5. Like, important. It's good that it happens. Not the end of the world otherwise.
No.
And you talked about guys not really having a lot to say about contract situations and bringing up Cross and then Abe. They asked Abe about that in his press conference, and his answer was, I don't know. I'm just I'm learning this offense. Like, I don't care. Again, reason number 1,436 that I love Abe Lucas. He's just super fun. But thinking about the defense and what Durde's talking about, and thinking about that murderer's row of defensive linemen and what they're trying to accomplish, and having them all there, bouncing ideas off each other, building that camaraderie, that chemistry. That's why I say 5. It's definitely not nothing. Like, it's a real thing, but maybe not the most important thing, but cool to hear nonetheless.
Anything lower than a 7, it just feels like it's not that important.
Well, you got to remember, on a scale of 1 to 10, 5 is like, yeah, okay. Like, it's just dead middle, right?
Okay.
That's where you live. You live in zone 5.
And you're now in zone 5. So there you go.
Yeah.
Funny. Well, one of the things I think also along the defensive side that got me excited was thinking about Ernest Jones and his situation, with Tyrice Knight, his situation. We haven't really talked about injuries yet, Adam, and it seems like the three guys that I heard the injuries were really slowing down were rookie Torrey Horton, Uchenna Nwosu, Ernest Jones, who had a knee procedure. But he talked about how his knee had been bothering him now for the past 2 years, and he's just finally kind of got it cleaned up this year. And so it was interesting to hear him talking about how he'd been playing through that. But the thing that got me excited was hearing about just that relationship that Ernest Jones has built with Tyrice Knight, and how it's continued to grow, and even how he relied on it when he was traded here toward the middle of last season.
For me, when I first got here, he was a guy that was kind of already talking to me. A lot of guys addressed him as Rook, but he had me being in year 4, he was helping me out, learn the playbook and stuff. So we've had that relationship, and just to see how our relationship off the field has grown since, I got here, I think that's only going to make us, when we're on the field, play like we're the same person and, just be connected.
And understanding that connectivity between those two, because at linebacker, especially the off-ball linebackers, we've talked about how depth has been a bit of a concern. But if you have the DB group that's really solid, the guys up front that are really solid, and then you have this cohesive relationship that's developing between Knight and Ernest Jones, it was kind of cool to me to hear that they've that relationship has grown even throughout the offseason. And also that kind of cool nugget of, hey, he was the guy that helped me learn this offense when he was a rookie and I was coming to the team.
Yeah, that's a really cool statement. There's not a lot of guys that would have that sort of humility to say, hey, when I first got here, even the rookie was showing me stuff when it came to this. And it does go to show what type of person Ernest Jones is. And again, another of all the offseason moves, getting him re-signed, I think might be the most important, just because of the way that the linebackers are kind of the heart and soul of a Mike McDonald operation. And to know that him and Tyrice have this relationship and that it's as connected as it is, I think that's something that's really cool. And then also just kind of going back to our previous conversation, talking about how the defense was a mess for a number of years and didn't really start to get figured out to the last half of last year. Offense has been up and down that whole time. It does feel like for the first time coming into a season in a while, we're looking at least one side of the ball and being in a state of mind where you're going, hey, yes, this could be top 5 defense. Easy. This is sorted. This side of the ball is relatively sorted. We're going to have a good year over there. And while offensively it was what it was last year, it feels like, at least philosophically, they're looking at the offense this year and be like, okay, now we're going to get that sorted too. And that there's a direction that it's moving forward and it's going the right direction. And Ernest Jones being the tip of the spear of that on defense.
Well, and even hearing from Devin Witherspoon, and I don't have the quote from it, but you hear from some of these defensive guys, and it's not talking about going out and, putting a solid defense on the field. Like, you're hearing from guys saying, we want to be a number 1 defense. And yeah. I think that's an important part to it too.
And it feels like it's legit in range.
Right.
Not saying that it's 100% likely or anything like that.
It's not like the Cincinnati Bengals going out there, or I don't know, whoever was a bottom 5 defense last year going, oh, we're going to be number 1. No, you got the dudes to do it.
Absolutely. And you have the coaches to do it. Just seeing how the timeline of this defense developing is so similar to the timeline, the way that the Ravens defense developed, with first half of his first season as DC being a bit rough, making some changes, figuring it out. By the second half of the year, they started to really get it to click. And then the next year, everybody in the league was thinking, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to go play these guys. It's complicated. They're moving fast. There's 13 guys on the field somehow. And that's what has me fired up for this defense moving forward.
Fired up about the defense, fired up about the 2025 season. I saw a poll out on field goals. we're all in a pretty familiar boat as Seahawks fans, because I think it was 60%. It was like, when are you going to start getting excited for the 2025 season? And it was like, around week 1, once the preseason gets here. I forget what the other one was. And 63% was like, I'm excited right now.
Yeah. My answer to that question would be, what day was Abe's presser? Is that 2 days ago?
Yeah. 2
days ago. Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah. Yep. Fired up.
He won you over.
Absolutely. Because I just had so many reservations about how wishy-washy, to me, are just confusing the offseason was offensively. And yeah, that's going to be really fun. It's going to be really fun. I'm with the 63%. Excited now. Thanks, Abe.
Well, you're saying thanks to Abe now. I think you're going to be a little more excited about Sam Darnold when I play a clip for you, Adam, after the break.
Oh, okay. Is Sam Darnold the quarterback or the dude? Because I really like the dude.
Mean, the dude plays quarterback. How do you separate those things?
I mean, I've never had a problem separating personal and business. I think most people can do that sort of thing. We're all grown people.
Okay. Well, you start rooting for the dude. You start rooting for the quarterback. How about that?
Oh, I'll never not be rooting for him. It's just being realistic about the way I feel about it. But listen, tell me about it. Tell me about it.
Oh my gosh, I'm just trying to tease the quote. Why do we have to make this complicated?
Because I suck. That's why. No, just play it. We'll get back. Play me the quote. I'll feign to be excited if I'm not.
I don't know if I want to play it now. How about that?
That's fair.
Getting into the second half of the show. I teased it as we were leading up to the break, Adam. I've got a quote from Sam Darnold. I think one of the things that was very apparent in this first week of OTAs, he was all over the place. Gosh, he was on the Rich Eisen show, I think, the Dan Patrick show. I know I heard him on Jim Rome. So he was making the rounds, which is unusual for a Seahawks quarterback, even during the Russell Wilson years. It wasn't until Russ had won the Walter Payton Award to where he was doing the circuit of making all of the shows. So this is unusual to me, just to have any Seahawks player, let alone Seahawks quarterback, making the rounds on national media.
Yeah, not something that you hear a ton of from Seahawks quarterbacks being out here in Southeast Alaska. But I do think that Sam as a whole, his situation coming to Seattle is fascinating to the national media, because I think they also kind of look at the whole situation and think this will be defining for him. Let's see how this goes. And it's fascinating.
Well, it's a fun story too. And one really that we lived through the last couple of years with Geno kind of making this career resurgence. And so we've seen it happen now with one quarterback with Geno Smith, and now going on to the Raiders. And now people kind of wondering, could this happen again with Sam Darnold? And the quote that he had, though, I didn't pull any of the quotes from the national media broadcasts. I pulled the one quote from Fullback about Fullback from his press conference, just because I found it interesting that he would point to the Fullback situation as being an important component of this new offense. But he got to the end of the press conference, Adam, and he was asked about his golf game. Did you know that Sam Darnold is a golfer?
He's a quarterback. I assume that every quarterback and every kicker is a golfer.
No, Russ never talked about golf. Geno never talked about golf. Geno talked more about chess than he talked about golf.
That's a good point. All solid points.
But what do you suppose? I'm trying to decide if I should ask you this ahead of the clip or after the clip.
What his handicap is?
What do you consider to be a good handicap?
Oh, anyone that's better than mine. My handicap is inability. But with that said, I'd say if you're 10 or under, I think that's a hell of a handicap. I think that's playing good golf regularly.
And for those who aren't familiar with golf at all, a handicap is how many shots over par that you tend to shoot at a golf course. And so a handicap's a good way for two players who are very different capabilities to be able to compete against one another when you're out on the golf course. So if, for instance, somebody's a 30 handicap, which means that you're taking almost 2 more shots per hole than you generally should take. And somebody who's a 10 handicap, which you said is good, essentially if we want to play against each other, you get 1 more shot per hole, every hole, versus the other person. So it's a way to kind of gauge competition and still be able to compete against other skill sets.
Yeah, it kind of levels the playing field if you're having a one-on-one match when you go out there and play. And I believe some of the PGA guys, are pretty much all of them, if you actually got into their handicap, because it's calculated based on like an average course, not if you were playing at the Masters every time. And I think most of those guys have negative handicaps. Oh, yeah. And that's just how amazing those guys are. So
that's why they're professionals.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Sam Darnold will reveal his handicap in this clip.
I'm not good, first and foremost. I'm a 10 handicap for everyone out there paying attention. But I shot a 78, but that was at home on my home course. But that is not the standard. The standard right now is like mid-80s to high 80s.
So, see, mid to high 80s. Yeah. 10 handicap. And another thing, I can relate a little bit to Sam, because once you get to be a 10 handicap, you start to think how much better you could be, and you recognize like 10's about the area to where you can, if you have a good day, you could probably par a golf course.
Yes. And you start to realize the glaring flaws in your game, in how you could make up for 5 of those 10 strokes just by putting in a little extra time on the putting green or around the chipping green, that sort of thing. And for him to be at 10 and say, I'm not good. I didn't know that. That's funny that was my guess. I do think 10's pretty good. And I think that makes you competitive with 80% of the golfers out there at the very least.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder where Brady, Allen, Rodgers, all the guys that have played, they do the match and all that paired up with the golf. I wonder where their handicaps are.
The one that Al Del Greco used to always dominate as kicker.
That's right. Oh, I forgot about Al Del Greco. Absolutely. And that's the thing. That's
kickers,
why I always
kickers
assume
usually are good golfers.
Kickers and QBs, because it's the same sort of mechanics, the same type of
understanding your body mechanics,
the rhythm to a football kick, a golf swing, and throwing a football, I think, is all very similar.
All right. Well, that's all I got. Oh,
good for Sam. Good for Sam, by the way.
It was cool. So it made me think, I wouldn't mind playing golf with Sam Darnold.
Oh, that'd be a hell of a day. Again, every time I listen to the guy talk, I'd kick it with Sam Darnold. Seems like a great dude. Absolutely. That's never going to be my issue with Sam Darnold.
Adam, the Seahawks home stadium, Lumen Field, is getting $19 million in World Cup upgrades. And one of the things for the World Cup to come to your city is that they need a field with natural grass. And so Lumen Field is going to be installing irrigation, vacuum ventilation, whatever that is, and grow lights. Apparently, just the sun, not enough to count on in Seattle for grass to grow.
Catfish. But okay.
You got to have the grow lights. I don't know. Do they put those up in the stadium lighting?
They're growing grass. It's just a different kind of thing, I think, than you're thinking here. If they need grow lights.
Grow lights is on here. I did not add that one that was on this article that I read.
Yeah.
One other interesting component to this is that FIFA rules don't allow for stadiums to not have seat backs. And so they're having to, in the Hawks Nest, there's just bleachers with no backs. So now they have to install backs on those bleacher seats within the Hawks Nest. I thought that was kind of weird.
Safety Nazis. That's all that is.
It's not even safety. It's just like,
oh yeah, that's what they couch it in. I guarantee they do.
I've seen people fall over regular seats.
Absolutely. Okay, so I have questions. So number one, and these all come from a state of complete ignorance.
Sure.
So I understand that. Is the World Cup coming to Seattle?
Yes.
What year?
26.
Okay.
So next offseason, they're installing grass to play during the summertime.
And are they going to put the turf back in for football, or are we just moving to grass?
No, they're putting the turf back in.
Oh,
isn't that weird? Like, why wouldn't we at least try it?
I love the idea that the stadium managers here, and obviously I'm not a guy that is the groundskeeper of Lumen Field. Like, I've never been that dude, but I drive around Seattle often, you know what I see? A lot of green ass lawns. Right. That don't seem like it's all that difficult. I look at our growing season here up in Montana in the Gulch, and I look at what's going on over there on the coast in Seattle, that whole area. Does it get any easier to grow stuff? I mean, that's about as good as it gets. How can we not grow grass and just keep grass? What's wrong with grass?
I can see September, October, field's probably going to be in pretty good shape. Yes, there's probably going to be some rainy games where it gets kind of muddy and mucky, but that can make for a fun football game. Yeah. You don't want people getting injured. The questions, I guess, start to come in that November, December time frame, and I wonder just how well a field holds up. But my big thing is that if we're going to do this for soccer for 1 year, I just wonder, like, why not see how it goes for a year? Like, you're spending $20 million to put this all in, and you're telling me that before the football season starts, we're going to rip out all these grass upgrades and go back to turf. Like, I know it's better turf than a lot of different places, better turf than, the old AstroTurf that was in the Kingdome and that sort of thing. Like, they've made improvements, but one, how long does it take to swap it out? Could you go through half the season and play it, see how it goes and go, okay, well, we need a couple weeks on one of these road trips coming up. Can we swap it out in time?
That's interesting. I don't know what that would look like process-wise. But one thing I do know is that if you are in the market for grow lights, irrigation systems, things of that nature, after the World Cup is done at Lumen Field, there is going to be a tremendous sale on some commercial level
grow lights
equipment. Yes. And if you're looking to grow some grass, then this would be maybe a more economical way to get that done.
There you go. A big sale.
Big sale.
At Lumen Field.
Yeah. And now the real question is, are they going to take the seat backs off of the bleachers in the Hawks Nest?
No, that was the one thing that they said would be a permanent addition.
Okay. So our ticket's not in that section. I wonder how the Hawks Nest ticket holders feel about getting backs to their seats, if that's a bonus or not a bonus.
I think it's probably a bonus.
You would think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to be able to lean back. I've sat in the Hawks Nest before, and I mean, generally, I think people that sit in the Hawks Nest do very little sitting.
Yes.
So it may not matter a ton, but it is kind of nice when you sit down to be able to lean back.
I agree. The older you get, the more that makes sense. I once had a really old millwright tell me, never stand when you can sit, never sit when you can lay down. And it's sound advice.
Very, very sound advice in life. I'd like to solicit some sound advice from our members of the flock who went to getintheflock.com. We've got sound executive producering coming from DCH. That is Mr. Doug Chancel Harry. Ryan Peterson, our live YouTube executive producer. And, of course, JC Schilling and the 313th. No new members of the flock this week. So an extra special thanks to our executive producers this week, Adam.
Absolutely. I'm not stunned that there's no new members of the flock, because coming into this, nobody had really heard Abe's comments yet. And once they do and they get excited, they're going to want to become members of the flock. That's what I think. Getintheflock.com if you want to help support the show. If you just even join as a free member, you'll get an email as soon as I post the show. So there's no need to refresh your podcast app throughout the week. Or if you want to know then, maybe I need to go over to YouTube and check out there. Maybe you don't have your notifications turned on yet for YouTube, especially if we're going to go live. That's a good place to make sure you are subscribed. But $3 and above gets you into our Discord chat. That's where we are on game day, where we are throughout the off season. $5 and above, you get an I Am a Little Flocker patch that I mail out to you.
I just sent those out here a couple weeks ago, so I'll be sending out a new round for anybody who signed up lately. 12 and above gets you into our Facebook Ring of Honor group out on Facebook. Gets you some extra benefits, too, like being called out at the end of an episode once a month. I like to call out our $12 members and above. So you could do that. 90 and above gets you into our executive producer community, and we'll give you a shout out on each and every show.
Heck yeah. And look, when you're in that level, if you want to send us an email and be like, hey, I'd love for you guys to talk about this, that, the other thing, probably going to happen.
Or if you say, hey, I want to hang out in Idaho this weekend, are you busy? That might happen too.
That might happen too. And, with that said, did some hanging out in Idaho with Garen at Guaranteed Barbecue. Stopped by Smelterville on our way out on our way back from a long, long road trip that I was supposed to grind wheels on, yet made no sparks. It doesn't matter why. But it was instead of making a bunch of money, we spent a bunch of money, which was kind of a bummer. But the dollars that I regret the least by far, in fact, I don't regret it at all. I think it was the best money we spent on the whole trip, was stopping at Guaranteed Barbecue, saying hi to Garen, getting some incredible barbecue. Had my buddy Alec with me, who's from the South and is very picky when it comes to barbecue. Gave it 2 big thumbs up. It was so good. Add an extra plate I ordered too. Brought it home with me, put it in the wood-fired oven when we got home. Heated that up. Man, I kind of wish Garen could just live in the front yard and just make me barbecue all day, because it was amazing.
The sad part is it is too far away to go to every day.
Yes.
For us.
Yeah. But if you're going through Smelterville, Idaho, on your way on I-90 into Montana or coming out of Montana through the panhandle of Idaho, if you don't stop and get some barbecue there, you're absolutely doing it wrong. Do better.
Well, one of the cool things is that Garen is going to be hanging out with us at the home opener, Adam, against the San Francisco 49ers. We have our group tickets for that. In fact, I only have 4 seats remaining to that game. So if you want to go to that, tickets are $250 a piece, which is, I think, the cheapest that I saw out and available are like $330 a piece. So we're way under what the lowest price is. You can come hang out with us. Like I said, we got 4 tickets left for that game. I also just picked up this week 10 tickets for the Titans game. So we have 10 group seats for to see the Titans week 12, and those ones are $160 a piece, and those are going to be 100 level seats. So that's kind of nice.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize those were the ones you ended up going with. That's awesome. Okay.
Well, they weren't too much more than we could have either been on the 50-yard line but been way up in the 300 level. But this gets us down on the visitor side in the corner. Kind of similar, I guess, where we were for the Patriots game.
Yeah, that was good.
It's a good spot.
It's close enough to where I feel like at some point I'll be able to yell at Tyler Lockett to let him know just how much I still love him.
Yeah, he's got to come over to the visiting side of the field. But
he might run a route out that way. You never know.
You should come say hi.
Within earshot. Yeah.
So I'm going to be there for that one. And yeah, 319 is where our seats are for the Niners. I think it's 119, something like that, for the Titans game. And I don't think, other than the 3 of our tickets, maybe Wilson might be able to go to the Tennessee game. So I think I'm going to try and hold a seat for him. So that leaves us with 6 other tickets. If anybody wants to reach out to us, go
5.
Hawks. Oh, yeah, Alec is going to make it. So
yeah, my buddy Alec, who I just talked about, he actually lives in Chattanooga. His family, a lot of his family lives in Nashville. So yeah, he's never been to an NFL game.
So we might have 5 or 6. And go Hawks at Seahawkerspodcast.com. Reach out to us and we can hang out at a game.
Absolutely. And if we don't hang out at the game, I'm sure there's going to be, Clinton will definitely organize this. We'll probably hang out somewhere in Nashville. And I've never been, but from what I've heard, it could get a little rowdy and a little fun. So that could be a good time too.
All right. Well, getintheflock.com helps support the show. It helps support us going out to these gatherings because, yeah, we always try and get together the night before the game, try and get together maybe even after the game. We try and have a fun time whenever we travel to any of our Seahawks games. And we might throw in one more game, too.
Yeah.
Another home game.
Yeah, that'd be fun. No doubt about it.
All right. What do you say we get on to some do better and better at life?
My do better this week isn't for just one publication. It's actually for two. And it's kind of for a theme of articles that I see come out, and especially in the off season here, that it drives me crazy. I don't know why outlets do this. So, for example, one headline from the Sporting News was Seahawks predicted to replace Cooper Kupp with 14 touchdown wide receiver. Another headline from a place called, and I had never heard of this before and had not heard of it since, but it keeps popping up. And apparently in the text is so tiny, I can barely even read it. It's Pro Sports Network or something along those lines.
Okay.
Title of the article, Seahawks predicted to draft dynamic running back amid concerns over Kenneth Walker's future. And all of these articles are all about projections for a mock draft that is going to happen in 2026 to replace these players that we don't even know if they're going to be here or not next year. There's a whole season. We're projecting all these college players to have the type of seasons that we think they're going to have, and then predicting the draft process that is going to replace his players. And it's the way the freaking headlines are written, especially the Cooper Kupp one. Seahawks predicted to replace Cooper Kupp with 14 touchdown wide receiver. I'm like, oh, are they already thinking we need a little more depth? Who did they find? Who are they bringing in? Is this a cap casualty? Something along those lines? No, they're talking about a college-ass wide receiver who's not even going to be a pro for a whole nother year, who caught 14 touchdowns last year in freaking college. This is the dumbest crap. I hate these headlines. They get me every time, and I'm not smart enough to not get got by them, and I'm frustrated with it. I wish they would just stop. So to the Sporting News, all these people, anybody who writes headlines about mock drafts from a whole nother year from now, knock it off and do better.
See, when you said 14 touchdowns, it got me thinking too, is it a projected touchdown amount for a college receiver to score in 2025? But no, it was a 2024 touchdown number, but still
insane. What are we doing? What are we talking about? This isn't even a story. Don't waste your breath. Don't put the extra carpal tunnel on your fingers by typing it out. Just stop.
The only proper headline is, here's a too early mock draft for 2026.
The only proper headline is, we've decided to not do dumbass mock drafts a full year before we start to do dumbass mock drafts. That should be the headline.
So mock draft season worse than list season.
Yes, by far. It drives me extra crazy.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
All right. Well, my do better for this week is for road. And you may not know this, because if you know the inner workings of our podcast setup, then you may be an extra hardcore listener. But one of the decks that we use to record our sound on is made by Rode. And I was trying to set up and get clips prepared in a timely manner before we started the show, Adam. And I go to load the clips on how I normally do by booting up the software. I click on the same icon every time. It pulls it up so I can drag and drop the audio clips to where they need to go. I click the button and I get a note that says I need to update. Not unusual. Okay. If I see an update, I'll usually click it. I clicked it this time. I updated it. And then I get another pop-up. Well, I'll go back, because it was a little bit weird to me, because the software, when I clicked it the first time, did not look how it normally looks. And I'm like, I was confused, because I was wondering, okay, did I click the wrong one? Because Rode has many different software programs. And so I did a search to make sure I actually clicked the right one. I only had one on here, so I knew it was the right one. And so, yes, so when it popped up the second time, I was extra confused. It says that this software does not support the device that's plugged in right now. And I'm thinking, okay, well, that's weird. And so I did some searches, found out that this is a problem for a lot of people, that Rode updated its software, but it updated to the wrong version of the software that's not compatible with my actual equipment. I I don't mind getting updates. I don't mind going through the update process. But what I had to do was I had to uninstall the piece of software that had already been installed on my computer, uninstall it completely, download a brand new piece of software, and use it to go back to the thing that was already set up on my computer beforehand. And as I look at it now on my computer, I'm noticing that it's a brand new icon now. So now I'm getting used to a brand new icon that I have to click for Road for making this way unnecessarily difficult, because if this had happened to Adam, we just wouldn't have a show until probably August. So to Road, do better.
I would have burned it down. I would have taken it outside, probably shot it with something, whatever. I would have got Office Space style on the thing. My question is, Brandon, was the software you had installed before the infinite wisdom of Road said that you or replaced it for you without your knowledge, was it working just fine?
It was working just fine.
Is there any like feature from this new update that you're like, you know what, this consternation this caused, worth it? This is really cool.
I have a little bit of sympathy for some companies, especially Apple, with their routine operating system upgrades. Like, I think they have to keep up with the operating system changing to where then they have to follow through and change their software to make sure it's compatible with the new systems that Apple's doing. Like, this is not, they're in a tough spot, but I will say that it's not great when you update it to the wrong program.
And do it just automatically. I can't stand automatic updates.
Right. Like, yeah, because I didn't change my operating system. I just see that there is, and with Mac, that's one thing, especially with podcasting software, because you want to wait for those podcasting computer people. You know, they need a couple weeks to try and get their updates squared away. So I never update as soon as there's an Apple update available. Like, I'll let it sit, and then I'll see if other podcasters are having problems. And if they are, then there's no way that I'm making upgrades just yet. Like, I'll wait until it's stable before I make the switch. But if everything is just fine, let me upgrade it on my own.
Absolutely. And I'm firmly of the belief, this is much like nothing in this world needs to start before 10 a.m. Like, if we all just agreed, it'd be fine. Everything would still get done and everybody would have a nice morning. I don't believe that there needs to be more than 10% of the updates that come down the pike for operating systems, your phone, anything. I think most of this stuff is nonsense stuff that ends up screwing up more stuff just because people want to justify their jobs at the software development department that, I needed to do this update. And they just create more problems to keep themselves employed. I hate this crap. Most of the time, stuff works fine. Just leave it alone. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that's, I'm sorry that happened to you today, because you're right. I wouldn't have dealt well with this.
I got it worked through in about 10, 15 minutes.
You did great.
It wasn't a huge problem, but it was very much an annoyance knowing that I did nothing to change this.
Yeah, it's infuriating.
On to Better at Life.
All right, man. My Better at Life than Skip Bayless is for an organization I have never given this award to and probably never will again. But this made me happy. It made me happy on the inside. Thank you, Pittsburgh Steelers. Thank you for signing Aaron Rodgers finally. This is amazing. I can't wait for the quote-unquote Aaron Rodgers revenge tour that, like, Shefty was tweeting about, putting the Seahawks on that list. Because, Aaron's going to try to get revenge on us for what? Just beating his ass, like, over and over and over again?
Why is it a revenge tour?
They say, like, his first 6 games of the Steelers schedule are all revenge-type games for Aaron Rodgers.
Well, yeah, I suppose revenge for the NFC Championship.
Yeah, and I'm just sitting here thinking, thank you, Pittsburgh. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to beat down the decrepit corpse of Aaron Rodgers yet again in week 2 and put another dub on the schedule. I love that. Thank you so much. This guy is going to be just an abject disaster in Pittsburgh, considering the type of distractions he brings, all of the diminished capabilities, all of that stuff. And they don't really have an option other than Mason Rudolph. In fact, I am much happier to face Aaron Rodgers week 2 than the prospect of facing Mason Rudolph again in week 2. I can't wait. This is going to be fun. This is the last time that we ever have to watch a season with Aaron Rodgers as a legitimate, quote unquote, starting quarterback. And we'll put a little blemish on his revenge tour again. And so if the Steelers hadn't have done this, we wouldn't get to do all that. And so thanks to them. And they're better at life than Skip Bayless.
Yeah, the best kind of revenge games are the ones that you don't know are necessarily revenge games as a fan. Because, yeah, I guess I don't think about any big Aaron Rodgers moments. Generally that, anytime that we went there and lost, it was in the regular season.
Yeah.
And the one playoff game in Lambeau that I remember was Matt Hasselbeck. So it's been a long time.
It has. It's been a long time. And as much as I have stated how I feel about Darnold over the offseason, boy, I'd be even more dismayed if I was a Steelers fan. What are we doing?
Well, that was, I think before we got Darnold and we were talking about the different types of quarterback prospects that could come to Seattle. I know Aaron Rodgers was one of those names out there. And yeah, it would have felt a little bit different than actually drafting a quarterback, but I would have been a lot more, I would have been pounding the table a lot more for a quarterback, I think, earlier than the 3rd round if Aaron Rodgers would have been signed to the team. Yeah,
that would have been a difficult season to watch because unlike Sam Darnold, I don't much care for Aaron, the human. And it's not about any of his stances on anything. It's just that he's just kind of an arrogant, cocky prick.
He does come across very arrogant.
And I just don't like him. That's all.
He might be a 10 handicapper, though. You never know.
I don't know. Probably. He probably spends enough time on his golf game and everything else that he does to actually be really good at that, even though he's not a good quarterback anymore.
Well, you're excited about week 2. I'm excited about week 5 of our Seahawks season because the Seahawks, Adam, they announced it. They are celebrating the 50 seasons as a franchise, and they're going to be doing it in the game October 5th against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's going to be the 50th season game. It's going to be extra cool because they're going to invite out the top 50 players who got announced here this past week. And that'll be a fun time. Just seeing the 50 players, them all listed, that'll give us something to talk about probably over these next few weeks as to who made that list, who maybe doesn't belong on this list. It's a good looking group, and I'm ready to celebrate it come week 5 against Tampa Bay. Hopefully we're doing it in the throwback uniforms against the Bucs. That's going to make that game look extra special too. So for the Seahawks, announcing their 50th season game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, better at life than Skip Bayless.
It's interesting, too, that was the one they chose because if I'm not mistaken, the Bucs and the Seahawks came into existence at the exact same time.
Exact same year. Yeah. It was the Seahawks' first victory as a franchise against the Tampa Bay Bucs.
And then in week 5, it will be their most recent victory. That's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. I do hope they do the throwbacks for sure. That would be a fun visual with the creamsicles and the fantastic throwback jerseys that we have. And I don't know about you, Brandon. Have you even looked at the 50 list? Because I have not. That was something that when it was coming out and they were counting down players and all that, I couldn't find a care to spare.
They announced it in kind of a weird way, at least a way that I didn't necessarily expect. Because they did a lot of grouping by position. So the full 50 list is out. It was part of they had a graphic listed with all 50 players as part of the announcement and celebrating the 50th game. So I have seen it. I would have to dig awfully hard to figure out who got snubbed necessarily. I saw someone out on Reddit complaining that Jermaine Kearse didn't make the top 50. And, I understand there's probably a favorite player that you have that you would have liked to see on the list that didn't make the list. Jermaine Kearse probably not making the list, but there's a case for it to be made because he had made some really impactful catches during his time in Seattle.
I was going to say, if they won that second chip, I bet you Jermaine Kearse is on this list just for the catch that preceded that sequence.
you could make a very good argument that, hey, I'm for adding another receiver when I saw that 2 punters made the list. I'm happy that John Ryan and Michael Dixon are our 2 punters on the top 50 list. But when I think of 2 punters being on the list of the 50 best Seahawks of all time, that seems like too many.
Yep, that's 1 punter too many. And I think I would leave Dixon off the list at that point and keep Ryan, only because I think it's a little weird when you start putting current players on that maybe don't have a ton of years in the league in your top 50 lists. And I know you're predicting a little bit and hedging and all that, but did I hear right that Spoon was on this?
Spoon was on the list, yeah. So current.
Yeah.
It seems a little early for Spoon.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's not highly likely that he would end up there by the end of his career, because I think it is, but I don't know. That seems a little early.
Like if Spoon made it over Marcus Trufant, and I know Marcus Trufant made the list.
You better have.
Yeah. But something like that, I would see. And cornerback is going to be one of those areas where I'd look at and go, well, who is on the bubble at corner?
Yeah.
Because let's make Spoon make the top 75 in 25 years from now.
Well, we'll see when we actually break down the list, when we're really searching for things to talk after practice is done for the beginning of the summer and we have the doldrums.
Yeah, maybe wait a couple weeks to put this list out, Seattle. I mean, come on. Wait till after the practices.
Premature listage. That's what happened right there.
And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.